but they have not actually made a direct connection between him and the killing of the general. But I've said I will only go back to Juba if they allow me to meet with Dr. Riek.
Well, there is no sufficient evidence that links Riek Machar to the attack that happened in Nasir County that led to the loss of life of one general and 10 other people. That is the statement that was released by Raila Odinga, the special envoy from Kenya, who went to Juba, South Sudan to meet with President Salva Kiir to de-escalate the conflict in South Sudan. Well, that is part of the story that I'm going to tell you as well. I'm going to give you the full information of what Raila Odinga said. As well as in this video, I'm going to discuss about the role of Uganda in this whole conflict in South Sudan. Why was Honorable Raila Odinga sent by Salva Kiir to Uganda to meet President Yoweri Museveni, despite the fact that this is an internal conflict in South Sudan? This is Bonafide. If you haven't subscribed, kindly subscribe and hit that notification button so that when I release something new on the South Sudanese crisis, you get notified as soon as possible. Well, the special envoy from Kenya, Raila Odinga, went to Juba, South Sudan to meet Salva Kiir and as well to meet Riek Machar to try and de-escalate the political tensions in the country. Well, unfortunately, Raila Odinga could not meet Riek Machar and was given reasons by the South Sudanese government that Riek Machar is under house arrest and that there are investigations that are being conducted by the government of the day to find out if Riek Machar indeed was involved in the conflict or the attack that happened in Nasir County, where the White Army attacked a UN helicopter that was trying to evacuate members of the South Sudanese People Defense Forces. In that particular attack, one general lost his life as well as 10 other people who were part of that rescue. Well, despite the fact that Raila Odinga could not meet Riek Machar, he indeed met Salva Kiir and they had discussions about de-escalation of the political tensions in the country. And after leaving Juba, Raila Odinga went to Entebbe, met President Museveni that I'm going to talk about, and then came back to Kenya to give a statement and write a report to President Ruto, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and President Gwele of Djibouti on his findings after going to Juba to discuss about de-escalation. And well, according to Raila Odinga, he noted that Riek Machar has not yet been found guilty in connection to the attack that happened in Nasir County. Here is Raila Odinga saying those words after he came from Entebbe meeting President Museveni.
They have not said that Riek is involved. They're saying that some of his supporters, but they say that some militia who are linked to him, but they have not actually made a direct connection between him and the killing of the general. So we hope that they're going to finalize this matter as quickly as possible. They say that when I go back to Juba, they will allow me, but I've said I will only go back to Juba if they allow me to meet with Dr. Riek.
Well, from that statement, you can clearly hear that South Sudan is investigating Riek Machar to find if he is in one way or another connected to the attack that happened in Nasir County. And that is the particular attack that has made the political tensions in South Sudan to be heightened as they are right now. What happened in Nasir County angered the South Sudanese People Defense Forces, it angered the president of the day, and it angered the party that is allied to the president, the SPLM. And this is not the same way that the SPLM-IO is viewing that particular issue. They are saying that the attack that happened in Nasir County was unfortunate, but the forced disarmament of the people in these areas that are allied to the opposition is a no-go, that they should not have this forced disarmament to these people without engaging the leaders appropriately. This is part of the reunification of the army to have one South Sudanese People Defense Forces that is not either allied to Salva Kiir or Riek Machar to have one unified army. But that seems to be a very hard task in South Sudan, as there are very many obstacles to achieving the reunification of the armed forces in South Sudan. Well, Raila Odinga went on to say that there are no formal charges that have been pressed against Riek Machar, and that makes all these accusations to be speculation whether really Riek Machar was involved in what happened in Nasir County. But what is majorly known is that people living in these particular areas that are hotspots that had these attacks are very much allied to Riek Machar. So the government of the day is saying that indeed it is Riek Machar. The order came from above, and that is the reason as to why they have him under house arrest. But something very interesting happened when Raila Odinga was having this conversation with Salva Kiir. He said that Riek Machar is not accessible to have conversations with at the moment because he is under investigation and he is under house arrest. And Salva Kiir said that you should go and speak to President Museveni. Now that is the most interesting part, because what is the role of Uganda in the South Sudanese conflict? What we know so far is that the UPDf has been in South Sudan for quite some time. The UPDF has assisted the South Sudanese People Defense Forces in fighting in the struggles that the South Sudanese People Defense Forces had even back in 2014. But what we are now seeing is that the UPDF still is consistent to go and try to, in one way or another, resolve the conflict in South Sudan. But that is not how it is being seen by the opposition in South Sudan, because the opposition, the SPLA-IO, went out in public and released a statement saying that the Ugandan People Defense Forces are not welcomed in South Sudan, that they should not be part of the struggles in South Sudan, they should not be part of the politics in South Sudan, and that the UPDF should leave South Sudan for the South Sudanese people to solve their own problems alone. And the fact that Salva Kiir referred Raila Odinga to President Museveni puts President Museveni and the Uganda People Defense Forces at the center of what is happening in South Sudan, because in one way or another they will be implicated. And the UPDF are not going in South Sudan to put a buffer zone between the two sides. They are there to assist the government of the day to quell any insurgencies in the country. That means that the UPDF is partisan in this conflict in South Sudan. They are there to assist Salva Kiir to maintain law and order in the country. That is seen in a different light to the people who are allied to Riek Machar, to the people who are allied to the SPLM-IO, and they are saying that Salva Kiir is indeed using the UPDF as boots on the ground to reinforce his authoritarian rule in South Sudan, and for Uganda to maintain a legacy in South Sudan, because they have been part of a good legacy to assist the South Sudanese people to gain their independence, to assist the South Sudanese people to maintain peace. And many South Sudanese refugees are indeed in Uganda. They are taking refuge in Uganda, and they have been offered services and land to stay in Uganda so that they can be able to go about their lives. For Uganda to maintain a legacy in South Sudan, there is a need for the UPDF to withdraw from South Sudan, or at least to be non-partisan while in South Sudan, to allow the South Sudanese people to forge their own future.